Warning: the following presentation contains graphic images of dead bodies, which can easily be disturbing. If you cannot handle these sorts of things, I suggest you leave now. (1945) World War II. America is currently at war with Japan. In Japan, the war party controlled the government. They were willing to sacrifice millions of Japanese civilians in order to stay in power. Therefore, the US had to resort to something tragic in order to keep peace and reduce American casualties. On the day of the attack, US and Japan had been at war for nearly 5 years now, with the death toll of the US soldiers totaling nearly 100,000, when on the other hand, Japan had almost 1 million dead soldiers. The US feared if this war continues, many more lives will be lost. Therefore, they had to resort into tragic matters in order to stop this from happening. They travelled from West Tinian to Hiroshima to deliver a special little present via a B-29 bomber. The US had to resort to dropping the first nuclear bomb onto the city of Hiroshima in Japan. They later dropped a bomb on a city called Nagasaki. The nuke's name was Little Man. 3 weeks after deploying the nuke, the Americans finally got what they wanted, a surrender note from Japan to end this massive and bloody battle which claimed more than 1 million lives. Within the first 10 seconds of the nuke being dropped, everything within a 3-mile radius was completely destroyed, and humans were turned into carbon. There were large pockets of radiation everywhere, contaminating absolutely everything in its path. Humans were killed in an instant. Houses were destroyed, leaving them nowhere to go. The victims of Hiroshima suffered intense burns, hotter than the center of our sun. The people that did not get affected by the large explosion were affected by the high radiation. The radiation dug into their skin and caused cancer later in life if they survived. Internal organs shut down and life stopped. Anyone around there a few days after the explosion will also become victims of radiation, which lingers the air. 90% of all medical personnel were either killed or disbanded, and the remaining medical supplies quickly ran out. Many survivors began to notice the effects of exposure to the bomb's radiation. Their symptoms range from nausea, bleeding, loss of hair, to death. Here is what Hiroshima looks like, and here's how it looked like after the bomb was dropped. The atmosphere around the city was filled up with dust and smoke as all the flammable materials began to burn. The result of the heat radiated from the explosion. The environmental impacts of the use of nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki were effective destruction. The radiation killed all the animals and poisoned all the plants, which died instantly, along with anything within 100 feet of ground zero. When a nuke hits land, it throws up a lot of dirt and dust, which becomes radioactive fallout. This radioactive dirt then covers everything, and when plant life comes back, it will have a high contamination level. This was a first use for nuclear weaponry. This was a weapon that the world has never seen before World War II. Imagine the power a country could have over another country. Thus started the nuclear race. The bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki was a terrible event in our history that will never be forgotten. But the outcome, ending World War II, saved many lives on all sides. Not only did it create a nuclear arms race between Russia and the US, but it gave mankind the power to destroy itself. Sure, it was a statement that we had the bomb and it started the nuclear arms race in the Cold War. The fact that something so destructive had been used will change the way war is fought forever. The bombing of Hiroshima also stopped World War II, which impacted the world greatly as many lives were saved from death. In conclusion, I've talked to you about the bombing, why it was done, and I answered my personal question: what effect did the bombing have on the world? It firstly affected people because of the massive destruction it had on both humans and home. The second impact was on the environment, as it destroyed plant life, animal life, and burnt down rainforests. The third impact was on a global scale. This bombing stopped World War II and saved many more unwanted deaths. However, it introduced nuclear warfare to the world and gave mankind the power to destroy itself. It also impacted on the world by starting a nuclear arms race between Russia and the US, which resulted in the Cold War. Overall, the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were one of the most important events in the history of mankind, as it changed so many things, some in positive ways, some in negative ways. Here ends my personal project for social studies. I hope you enjoyed.